Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I just want to kind of take a video doing a little bit of, I guess, a character breakdown of Rean Schwarzer from the Trails of Cold Steel games. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about his story progression and just his character all across all four games. So this is going to be spoilers if you haven't played all four of the Trails of Cold Steel games, just letting you know that ahead of time. So obviously I've talked about it quite a bit because I won't shut up about Trails of Cold Steel because I'm kind of obsessed. But the fact of the matter is I think Rean might be one of my favorite protagonists like all across a lot of stuff, just because I think he's an interesting character on many different levels. One, he's a swordsman, and obviously you know how crazy I am about sword characters, especially him using Itachi. You know, I'm just kind of obsessed with like swords of that nature that are like katanas and stuff like that. Those are kind of like typically my favorite type of swords. But obviously, it's like also his character, just because obviously Rean is kind of like he's the, as they constantly refer to him as, he is kind of like the core. Like, he is kind of the leader of Class 7, but, you know, more often than not, they refer to him as the core because he's the glue that holds it all together. Like, he's the one that kind of acts as kind of the buffer between all the complicated relationships. Obviously, him and Lisa had their complicated thing. Obviously, the whole thing between him and Laura, when it came to, like, you know, she felt like there was something off about, like, him holding back or something like that. But he, you know, and he, you know, because he is someone that doesn't have a lot of confidence, which I think that's one of the things that I've always said resonated with me about his character, is that he isn't cocky or anything. It's not necessarily even being humble. He has kind of almost a complex in more ways than one. We'll get to that. But that led to the kind of little bit of a disagreement he had with Laura about, you know, but then, you know, he course corrected like the next day. And then, like, obviously the Machias and Eustace relationship, he helped buffer that, as well as the Fee and Laura situation. So he's always there to kind of, like, you know, mend fences, and obviously like he cares about the people that are around him. And that's what I mean, that doesn't just apply to Class 7, it applies to a lot of people around him, but he's always willing to help someone. And that's also the complicated thing, is that he's willing to go above and beyond, as Eustace says in Berea Heart in 1, of like, it's almost unnatural how you'd rather put other people's lives ahead of you. It's like some people might look at that as like, oh, you being brave. Other people might look at it as kind of like you being a little cocky or narcissistic. I can't remember the exact wording, but basically it is unnatural. Like, he will put other people's lives way before his, because that, like I said, that's kind of like Rean's complex. Like, he feels like his life isn't worth other people's lives, and that's something not just in the first game, second game, and even the third. Like, he has this hard time relying on people, and Class 7 having to constantly remind him, you can rely on us, you don't have to shoulder everything on your own. Because even at the end of 1, they knew that, like, because Elisa tells him, it's like, we know that you going off, like us staying behind, that you were going to worry, you're going to blame yourself, but we did that because we knew that you'd be the only hope that we had. But we also had the hope that we'd all be able to come back together again, because they aren't just like his friends, these people are like family to him, his second family. I mean, technically his third family, because, you know, Osborne being his actual dad, and, you know, Elise, his dad, you know, Elise's parents being his mom and dad as well. So this is like his third family. So these friends mean the world to him, and that's what Rean will do for the people he cares about. He's willing to go above and beyond. He will even sacrifice himself. And like I said, shouldering that burden is one of like his complexes. It's already been a little bit over a month since I've finished 4, so I'm probably missing something, but I don't remember him going as crazy like he does in previous games, like shouldering everything on his own. Because like there's multiple instances of it. Obviously, like when he's breaking, you know, he goes along aboard the Pentagril in 2. That was him kind of going on his own. Granted, he learned how to use his powers. You know, obviously he unlocked spirit unification because the Alphen made him realize, like, wait, you know, because it's something even Elise had made him realize as well. It's like, your relationship with people isn't a one-way street. Because for Rean, he always treated everything as a one-way street. Like, I care about people, and like, but he can never see the vice versa of it. Because when it comes down to it, when it comes to Rean, because some people might say like, oh, he's a little oblivious, because obviously that's the joke about him when it comes to the relationships of like, oh, there's ladies around you and you're kind of oblivious to how they feel. Obviously, with the whole Elise thing is one of the prime example of that. But he's oblivious when it comes to how people feel about him. He's never oblivious to like the feelings and understanding people. He's actually really sensitive to that stuff, in the sense that like he knows, you know, I think he says part of it is probably because of his 8 leaves training, that unseen eye technique, that helps him, you know, get rid of all preconceived notions he has about a situation and see it, you know, clearly and kind of with like an unbiased and objective side. But it's also he's very keen to like how people are feeling, so he picks up on a lot of other relationships, like, oh, there's something between these two characters, is there something there? Nah, maybe I shouldn't. But he has very good instincts about when it, you know, just things in general, but definitely when it comes to people. But when it comes to people and how they feel about him, it's his blind spot, because like I said, it's just kind of like that complex that he has, or it's just kind of like, you know, it's like he looks at love as like a one-way street, because even Elise got on him in the first game for the fact is, it's like, you feel like you owe mom and dad. Don't feel like you're an obligation to us, your family. We love you. Like, family isn't an obligation. But he feels like he was a burden on his family. It's like, yeah, like I'm not even like your real brother, their real son, but it's like, you know, they love him regardless. And I think that's a complex, obviously, that doesn't come up anymore in the later games, because like regardless of everything, first and foremost, it's like, I will always be their son. They are my mom and dad, regardless of who my biological mom and dad are. Obviously, he didn't really get the chance to know it. I think, obviously, that becomes more of a thing, remembering at least. I think that gets tackled in the next Trails game, which I wasn't even aware that was already out in Japan. Like, it came out like a couple months ago in Japan. But I think that kind of gets tackled a little bit more of that, you know, Osborn and his real mom. Like, I think that gets tackled a little bit more in the future in that game. But the point I was making is, like, he is a lot more, like, obviously, even though he still has some of that complex, some of those complexes, you do see his growth from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Like I said, because, you know, it's still there in 3, because when you go try to save Milliam, he tries to do it on his own, and I'm like, whoa, like, let us be there. Like, this, don't, you know, if you want to save Milliam, aren't you going to need all the help? And he's like, they're right. I still got so much growing to do, because like he's like, I let my emotions get the best of me in this situation. But in 4, I think he does fully embrace relying on other people, whether it be Crow in the rivalries or just everyone in Class 7 as well, just always having his back during everything. And like I said, to my recollection, and I could be mistaken, but I don't remember there being any instances of him trying to do everything on his own. Granted, you know, the circumstances of him, you know, being consumed by the Great Twilight, you know, his powers running wild as a sacrifice. Like, that's one of those instances. But I think Rean's gotten to the point, because he recognizes, like, nah, my friends, like, I'm strong. He's like, I'm not strong because I'm strong. I'm strong because I have my friends backing me up. But it's, once again, it's still, like, it's like Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts, you know, Sora's, I mean, this applies to a lot of protagonists, but obviously Sora's the one that comes to my mind the most about, like, friendship is power. And for him, he feels that too. He just, like I said, always looks at it as a one-way street of, like, they're my power, but he never realizes like he's theirs as well. It's like how much they care for him, that they will shoulder everything. You know, even Osborn giving him that message of like, don't try to tackle everything alone. Like, the fact of the matter is, you're not the only one that cares. It's not that you just care about these people. These people care about you too. So let them be there for you. Let them shoulder that burden with you, because that's what they are there for. They want you to shoulder that with it. And he's like, I'll take those words to heart. I'll try. You know, so even then, like, you know, it took Osborn telling him to, because you know, it's a realization that Rean kind of has, because obviously he constantly struggles with himself. Obviously, it comes to the forefront when he's literally, when he becomes a divine blade and literally has to face, you know, his fear, face himself. Like I said, I haven't played what is now the most recent, like, game in this series, because it's still in Japan. But, like I said, I wasn't even aware that was already out and it existed. But, like I said, this is just me talking about his growth from Trails 1, 2, 3, and 4, and obviously I'm sure he grows even more in this next game, and I'm curious what that growth looks like. But also, like, in the future, the Trails series, like, even when we're no longer following Rean, like, how much further he'll grow off screen is going to be an interesting thing to see. I mean, because obviously it's not just going to be about him growing, it's going to be about everyone, you know, whether it be new Class 7, old Class 7, as well as all the friends and connections he's made along the way. How they grow with him, you know. So that's, to me, like I said, that's just some of the stuff, you know, I like the most about Rean. I won't lie to you, like, the whole, like, secret power he had, like, I will admit, like, the whole, in 4, it kind of confused me, like, what the difference was between, like, his ogre power and his sacrifice power. But after sitting on it for a very long time, I realized, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just being stupid. Like, it's always been that his powers as his sacrifice have always been his ogre powers, because of the whole Osborn giving him his heart thing, you know. And that's also kind of I don't think I talked about it, obviously, after the whole Ishmaelga / curse situation, just to, you know, save his son's life. And, you know, like I said, because at the time I couldn't understand, like, so I'm just assuming because of everything, Rean no longer has any of those ogre powers, because his ogre powers have always been part of the curse and everything. So once the curse was lifted, Ishmaelga was taken care of. Now that the Great Twilight is over, the curse is gone. Like, all what made him a sacrifice is gone. But it's still kind of a sweet thing to think about. The fact is that regardless of Osborn not being there, Osborn will always be a part of him. Like, obviously he got to finally see who Osborn really was, got to understand who Osborn was over the course of the game, but really got to really know his dad at the very end. I've kind of continued to ramble on. I do apologize. You should have expected this, because, you know, like I said, I'm obsessed with these games. But yeah, I just wanted to, you know, talk a little bit about a lot about that also. Yeah, obviously these are just some of my thoughts about Rean in general. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.